We know China very proper. They wanted to focus the media on the Olympics. Basically, as soon as the Olympics were over, Russia started the aggressive actions going into Ukraine.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking time out on this monumental day. And, just for everybody watching, our thoughts and prayers go out with the people of Ukraine, as well as the people of Russia that have no part in this, did not want anything to do with this. We're thinking about you. We're with you. And hopefully we can put this thing behind us here soon. But unfortunately, I think there's a little bit more yet to come.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. And honestly, I was a little surprised. It made sense that Putin took over those territories with the separatists in them. I understood that, kind of, but this is definitely taking it to a new level. And it's sad because, as a trader, right? I mean, we're taught to buy when, and it's a term that means a lot more, but when there's blood in the streets, right? And then you think that in actuality, there is that in Ukraine, and it's heart wrenching, it stinks. I hate bullies. I really do.
Yeah, it's very, very unfortunate. And, obviously we know what Putin's agenda is, and I don't think he's going to stop until he achieves it or somebody stops him. So hopefully it won't escalate out of control into a whole world war situation. And, but anyways, it's tense times and markets are reacting. And, our job is to help investors out there. And especially if there's people in Ukraine and Russia that need to protect their assets and understand the market and the climate and what's going on in next move.
So, I mean, showing my S&P chart is you got to be impressed with the recovery today, folks. And again, it seems like Biden's speech gave the market a little extra push. We were already rallying off the lows earlier today. I did do buying this morning pre-market. I was buying like crazy because, again, if there's one thing I've learned in my career is that when there's panic out there, that's usually when there's opportunity as well. So in the overnight, I had limit orders out for some cryptocurrencies. Some of them got filled, not all of them. And then same thing this morning. I was when the pre-market was open here, I was buying. So I added to some Facebook, near 190. I think that's back closing in on 205. And some other ones as well. But you can see this reversal here. I mean, incredible reversal in the S&P going green on the day now. And that's after we were down, well over 2% at the lows. Do I think the selling is over? No. I think this is a short-term reprieve. I think things have gotten too bearish, so you have some short covering. And I think ultimately the markets maybe have a week or so of bounce in them. But I do think that, again, we're far from over. If the Fed is really going to stick to it, then you have to come back in this longer S&P range here, which is basically removing this kind of steroidal push on the markets that occurred when all the monetary policy was put into effect during COVID.
Yeah. And, I think on that note, the Fed, they have to stay the course. In fact, they might have to come out a little bit stronger than they initially anticipated because of the situation now with energy costs going up. This is going to add to inflation. We are seeing slowing growth out there with some of the leading indicators with PMIs and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I think they're going to have to come out with at least a half a point. I don't think markets believe they're going to do that.
Yeah, and here's the NASDAQ 100, and that's actually ripping today. One of the things I thought about this morning, I tweeted about it early this morning, was that does Russia going into Ukraine and the geopolitical issues, does that maybe pull the Fed back from tightening, two times, essentially doing two rate hikes or a half basis point at their next meeting in March? And is that positive then for technology? And at the time with this, the Qs were below 320, but the idea being is that maybe in a weird, perverse way, this is a positive thing if it gets the Fed to slow down on their rate hikes. I don't know,
It'll be hard to say. We have a CPI print coming out before their meeting. So if that is very strong once again, then that gives them even more argument to stay the course and to be aggressive. And a lot of it's going to depend on how this situation escalates once we get there. But I tell you, the other thing it can provide the opportunity for the Fed to do is unload their balance sheet, because people are looking for safe haven assets right now, and really aren't any out there besides cash.
That's right. And I think the Fed has to, hopefully they take advantage. I think one of the things I've been disappointed in the Fed for a long, long time is that they always are late to the punch, right? So whether it was, with tightening, they should have started it way earlier, and then they could have gone slower before inflation got out of control. But here they have another opportunity. The question is, are they taking advantage of it? And hopefully they are, like you're saying.
Yeah, they have to do something. There's a flight to safety right now. It'd be a perfect opportunity to do it. where are you looking in NASDAQ right now? Because we are seeing a lot of the tech stocks snap back. What are your thoughts on FANG? Do you think it's over? Do you think it's a complete new market for those and a repricing and they're going to continue down? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think in the short term there's a reprieve, right? So looking at the Apple chart, you can see that this major trend line did get tagged at the opening bell today. So again, this is a long-term trend line that goes back to 2020, and again we've hit it now again. So I think this trend line does break, and one of my theories for how the NASDAQ will continue lower is that you'll see these big cap tech actually start to take the lead to the downside. So eventually I think it does come down, but it doesn't mean we won't bounce. I mean, Apple's now turning green on the day. I think we could easily go back on Apple to 167 before it kind of stalls out. There's a gap fill right up there. But once this line breaks, that's problematic for Apple, because now you're talking about a potential move down, maybe back to this level right here. And if you go back to $100, I mean, the Qs will absolutely get slaughtered. Now, on the other side of the coin, I think there's some real opportunities. So I was mentioning I was buying Facebook today. Now, again, you can see back to 203, but I mean, huge reversal after opening around 190 this morning. Pre-market, it was even lower than that. Yeah, I still think it has a shot to get back to this gap window here. That would be your first big resistance. Now, it seems a long way away at this point to get back to that, but I do think there's a chance. And again, I look at Facebook and we know that their growth has slowed a little bit. We know that, their earnings weren't as good. And really, one of the issues with Facebook is that all of a sudden people are very negative on the metaverse, right? All of a sudden people are like, oh, they'll never do it. How it's going to be running deficits in terms of earnings forever. I'm kind of in the camp that, Facebook, when they bought Instagram, everyone was like, oh, they paid $1 billion for it. They overpaid, horrible acquisition, turned out to be genius. Right. So again, I like to give Facebook the benefit of the doubt. So I think, again, if we get a decent bounce here, you could see Facebook play catch up. I think a lot of funds are now underinvested in Facebook because they unloaded so much. And I wouldn't be surprised if it starts to get some momentum. But there are other stocks out there. As much as I'm kind of skeptical on Apple, Roblox, a remarkable sell-off from $140, close to 40 this morning. And then you have stocks like SE, C Limited. This is a high growth. I think it's a Korea play, South Korea, kind of Amazon-ish and gaming play. And just, look at the blood that's been spilt on these. And again, I hate to use that term when what we're going through, what the people of Ukraine are going through, but just ridiculous types of downsides. So these are where I'm looking, right? Where the analysts have gotten overly bearish, too overly bearish. And I think there's a catch-up trade. And SoFi was one I bought, added to this one this morning. That's had a beautiful reversal. And then I'm trying to think of some of the other ones out there. PayPal I added to this morning. I already had a position on PayPal. I added to that this morning. Block is reporting earnings after the bell, which I also have as well. That's going to be interesting for PayPal. And again, Block is kind of a crypto play as well. So that'll be interesting to see. But certainly some of these names are really, they're beaten down to the point. I'm not looking for long-term investments here, but I'm looking for significant 20% plus bounces.